Hello. So, today we're gonna watch Dr. G Explains. He's a body language analyst, and I will leave his channel down below if you want to see more from him. But we're gonna react to Trump and Putin and different stuff about that.
Hey everybody, Dr. G here. I'm a clinical and forensic psychologist as well as a body language expert, and today we're going to be analyzing the behavior and body language of President Trump and Russian President.
And by the way, he makes pretty good content. He's have all types of topics like different meetings and court cases and shit. So
Vladimir Putin during their peace summit. Before we get started, a couple of quick things. One, I wanted to make sure you know this is not a psychological evaluation of any kind. These are just my opinions. In addition to that, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go. So what we're going to be watching first is President Trump waiting for President Putin to walk over to him so they can walk together on the literal red carpet. Let's just jump right in. So you saw a very brief lick of the lips, and then you saw the smile. President Trump, I think, is actually excited about this meeting. It looks like he's in high spirits. We're not seeing any signs of dominant body language yet. One thing that President Trump has a tendency to do is to turn his nose up to people if he feels like he's superior to them. We're not seeing that in his...
I think he kind of looks up to Putin in a way, right? Because he's a very powerful man and shit, and especially when he can make a lot of money on trades.
Default body language yet, but we're going to watch and see if it happens. He's also facing President Putin as he walks over. He's not looking away or waiting for him to get there. This is once again an overture to feel warm, to feel like he is welcome there. So body language wise, President Trump is actually doing quite a lot trying to make sure that President Putin feels welcome as he walks over to him. You can also see how open his body is. He's not doing anything that appears uncomfortable. It looked like President Putin just...
Now, again, I think it will mean a lot if he's able to actually stop the Ukrainian war. And I don't think he wants to piss off Putin, because that's the last thing. Like, nobody has ever actually been this close to actually stopping the war, but yeah.
Just nodded at President Trump, and then it looked like he gave a thumbs up. Watch this right here. There's the nod. Looks like maybe a thumbs up or some kind of hand signal. And then he reaches over before he actually gets to them. This shows that there appears to be genuine warmth between the two of them. This appears to be a meeting where neither one of them
he's doing the dragon pull method.
And then he reaches over before he actually gets to them. This shows that there appears to be genuine warmth between the two of them. This appears to be a meeting where neither one of them, at least yet, is showing any overt signs of trying to display power within their body language. That looks like more that they're trying to appear welcoming and they're trying to appear connected. Now, I do want you to watch something very important about the way that President Trump does his handshake. Now, what you're seeing right here is a very normal handshake, which may seem obvious. That may not seem remarkable in any way. However, President Trump is notorious for yanking people towards him. He does this to world leaders too. He's not doing that right now, which means he's not doing any overt signs of trying to do some sort of power play. You may have seen there were mutual arm touches. We tend to do that with people that we like. We tend to do that when we feel connected to somebody. So President Putin touched President Trump's arm and then vice versa. We tend to mimic people when we want to get along. So the idea that President Putin did it first, President Trump responded, this really speaks to the fact that they do actually want to get along, and they likely do get along. And you're seeing what appears to be two very genuine smiles. It's a very interesting dynamic between the two of them because neither one of them has done any overt signs of being the one that's in power, so to speak. So that's...
Like, Trump is actually pretty tall. It's crazy.
It's very interesting. Both have a similar rhythm and cadence to the way that they're walking. All of that seems very normal. When they're speaking, both of them are using their hands a little bit to emphasize. continued signs that he wants to get along. Having more physical touch is a way to connect with people. So the idea that President Trump is very genuinely trying to connect with President Putin right now seems very, very obvious.
President Putin, will you stop killing civilians?
That's a pretty good clip, but I think he didn't understand what she's saying because normally they have like an earpiece, right? And you have somebody translating. So when she's talking to him, he's like, I don't have that earpiece, right? Like he's like, I don't know what you're saying. I'm pretty sure.
So obviously he just signaled that he couldn't hear what was being said. I'd seen pundits talking about that he looked uncomfortable, but he doesn't look uncomfortable to me. I just think he has no real reaction to it. He's basically just saying and signaling, I'm not going to answer your questions or I'm not going to respond. I don't know how proficient his English is, so obviously he could hear the word Ukraine, but I'm not even sure that he could fully understand what was being said. But point being, there was no sign of discomfort when that was said by the reporter. He just seemed indifferent. And as you can see, after that was said, President Trump leans over, starts smiling, wants to make sure that he can maintain this connection, and then they're just going to move on.
Yeah, that's a pretty stupid ass question. What happens if he like gets mad and shit? You just destroy the whole thing. Please shut the fuck up.
And if you watch President Trump's mouth right here, this is a look of disapproval. He doesn't like the journalists calling out questions like this. Right there, a look of disapproval. He's frustrated by what's going on right now. Have you ever Googled your own name or email address? Before I had Aura, I did, and wow, it was my full name, my old address, phone number, all sorts of information I did not want people to have. That's why I started using Aura, today's sponsor. If you've called data, the issue is that they take you a fileable or /doc automatically. I'm not leaving myself a 14-day trial today. All right, back to the analysis. Now, there's no audio to this part, but this is the two of them waiting for the summit to start. So press is just in there for a couple of minutes before they come back later on. And if you look, they're doing basically the same thing with their hands. They both steeple. They both do small steepling. Steepling is basically this. If you're the CEO, the head, if you're the leader, oftentimes you do this because that makes you the expert. Steepling oftentimes signifies this. So you can see both of them doing that. Neither one of them is doing it strongly, but this is actually very common with President Trump. He does this when he sits oftentimes, and it appears that President Putin does something similar. So their body...
It's kind of crazy to think that if these two people wanted to, they could destroy the whole world. These two people. Of 8 billion, these two could destroy the entire world. Just send a couple of nukes here and there, boom.
Body language is actually quite similar right here, which I think is really interesting.
Like, they will of course destroy each other too, but and themselves, but they could.
Now, one thing you're not seeing is either of them doing any sort of big body language that makes them seem like the most powerful person in the room. They're both basically doing the same thing. Now we're going to listen to their statements after the meeting. We're going to see if the body language changed. All right, let's just jump right in. Now you're already seeing that President Trump has his mouth bunched up, doing this. Now he typically does this when he's feeling frustrated or stressed. So I'm going to guess that this did not quite go the way he wanted.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen.
That's interesting because they are very positive here, right? And I've seen this, and
you're also seeing some of this. He tends to do that when he's frustrated. We're going to get some more of that in a little bit. But if you watch President Trump's face, you're already seeing that this is not something that matches the energy we saw before.
Negotiations have been held in a constructive atmosphere of mutual respect. We had very thorough negotiations that were quite useful. I would like to thank
yeah, he looks kind of grumpy.
once again my American counterpart for the proposal to travel out here to Alaska. It only makes sense that we've met here because our...
Now, the way that President Putin talks is pretty standard for giving a prepared speech. He raises his eyebrows at times when needed, but you're not seeing any real emotion there. You're just seeing someone providing a speech. Now, President Trump, on the other hand, I want you to keep an eye out on him because he doesn't sit still very well. He's not always the most patient person when it comes to other people speaking. So he does move a lot. You're going to see that in just a minute.
Our countries, though separated by the ocean, are close neighbors. So when we've met, when I came out of the plane and I've said, "Good afternoon, dear neighbor. Very good to see you. In good health and to see you alive."
And you can see now President Trump is smiling right now, and that does seem genuine. It's not that whatever happened was catastrophic. I just think that he appears frustrated. Once it closes up on him, we're going to get more into that. But they're still trying to connect. They still look towards each other. That's all pretty normal body language for two people that are getting along. So I don't think that somehow the relationship has changed after this meeting. I just think that President Trump didn't necessarily get what he wanted out of it.
Yeah, it probably didn't go to shit. So
I think that is
that may be good. I don't know.
very neighborly.
We're going to skip ahead a couple of minutes because there's no major changes in body language, certainly not from Putin and President Trump. He still continues to move around a lot, as you would expect, because that's typically what he does.
Very much, Mr. President. That was very profound, and I will say that I believe we had a very productive meeting. There were many, many points that we agreed on, most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway. So
look at his face right now compared to the way he looked on the tarmac. Now, obviously, it's much later in the day, so he may be tired, but he looks disappointed. This is not the face, this is not the beaming that he typically does when he's had a big victory. So right now, it's not, once again, that it was catastrophic, but I think he's disappointed.
There's no deal until there's a deal. I will call up NATO in a little while. I will call up the various people that I think are appropriate, and I'll, of course, call up President Zelensky and tell him about today's meeting. It's ultimately up to them. They're going to have to agree with what Marco and Steve and some of the great people from the Trump administration who've come here, Scott.
So you see that he does this when he's frustrated. We've seen him do this before. So when you see him in meetings talking about Epstein, for example, you see some of that. There's a frustration that he's experiencing right now as he's talking about this because he's not out here announcing some massive victory. He's saying it's ongoing. We're going to continue to talk about this.
Great people from the Trump administration who've come here, Scott. And
that's the look right there.
John Radcliffe, thank you very much. But we have some of our really great leaders. They've been doing a phenomenal job. We also have some tremendous Russian business representatives here, and I think everybody wants to deal.
Another thing that he's not doing is raising his eyebrows as he talks, because when we do that, it brings attention to our face. He doesn't feel any major victories here, so he's not, once again, bringing attention to what he's saying. He's speaking a lot more quietly. You're not seeing the arms out at all. When President Trump is feeling excited about something, when he's really going at it, he moves his arms out. He emphasizes as strongly as he can. We're hearing almost no emphasis right now, which is highly unusual for him, actually.
With us, we've become the hottest country anywhere in the world in a very short period of time, and we look forward to that. We look forward to dealing. We're going to try and get this over with. We really made some great progress.
And that may be true, but what we're seeing right now is that it wasn't a victory. It wasn't an outright victory. It was just progress, and that's not what he wanted. So I do think, once again, he appears disappointed. He appears frustrated. Not necessarily.
Yeah, especially when he's been going around saying that the war would never happen if he was president and he's going to fix it, but no. He finds out that it's harder than it actually is, and then now he's like maybe feeling defeated. I don't know.
Necessarily at anybody, but just at the fact that he didn't get what he wanted.
Relationship with President Putin, with Vladimir. We had many tough meetings, good meetings. We were interfered with by the Russia hoax. That made it a little bit tougher to deal with, but he understood it.
See, as soon as he brings up Russia, he's back in his element for a second. He seems a little more fluid then, slightly more animated. But when he's talking about this meeting, it's just not there.
With by the Russia hoax, that made it a little bit tougher to deal with, but he understood it. I think he's probably seen things like that during the course of his career. He's seen it all, but we had to put up with the Russia hoax. He knew it was a hoax, and I knew it was a hoax.
See, you're getting a little bit more emphasis out of him. He feels a little bit more excited talking about these kinds of things because this is really in his wheelhouse.
But what was done was very criminal, but it made it harder for us to deal as a country in terms of the business and all of the things that we'd like to have dealt with.
And as you can see right here, President Trump is facing Putin. The goal of that is so that Putin will feel that connection, to see that he's facing him, that he feels that connection. President Trump really does focus on relationships. That's a big part of how he operates. And the gesture right here was a way to try to make sure that that connection is still open.
Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening. Thank you very much, Vladimir. And thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So once again, we got a normal handshake out of President Trump. There was no sort of power plays there. And really, in terms of body language, there weren't any power plays during this segment either, from either one of them, from what I could tell.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And there's that look again of disappointment from President Trump. Look at this expression on his mouth right here. So we'll go ahead and wrap things up. One thing I do want to point out about this handshake that's also worth noting is that as we look at whether or not people are trying to assert their dominance and assert their power, neither one of them, as I've talked about before, is turning their nose up to the other one. Nobody's doing anything that overtly suggests they're trying to grab power right here or that they want to appear more powerful. So that's interesting that neither one of them did anything.
Yeah, they're probably like kind of scared of each other, right? Because the history between US and Russia / Soviet Union hasn't been the best, and didn't probably know how powerful they are. So I don't think they want to really try to fuck with each other. I think that would be a bad choice. So
thing like that in either the tarmac meeting or this. But what we did see is that President Trump and President Putin went from seeming like they had a great connection. President Trump seemed very enthusiastic, very energetic, to appearing much more deflated by the end. He seemed frustrated. He seemed disappointed. He walked away with progress, but not the victory that I think that he had envisioned. If you have any thoughts about this, please let me know in the comments below. And if there's anything else you want me to analyze, I'd also like to hear about that. Last thing before we get finished up is I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, thanks for watching.
yeah, I will have a. If you go down to the description, I will have a link to his channel and shit. So if you want to see more, go ahead. And while you're down there, just give a like and subscribe. It would mean a lot. A small channel and shit. Yeah, goodbye.